Welcome to another episode of Rennch. On today's show, we're going to work on final fitment of the quarter panels of my 69 Porsche 911S. Welcome to episode 7, I think it's 7, of my Blasphemy build project, which is a 1969 911S that started as a race car that is being converted to a street car. Now, I've been working on fitting these rear quarter panels and rear latch panel for the last couple of episodes, but today is really where the rubber meets the road. I'm a little nervous about it, if I'm being honest. Today is where I do final fitment for the quarter panels, meaning there's a few spots I'm gonna have to trim, and I'll show you guys in a little more detail in a second, but basically, today's goal is to get the panels completely fit and ready to weld, including weld through primer. So I've got 3 main areas to address with each panel. One is down here by the rocker panel. One is here by the window. And the third is this cut, which will attach it to the body of the car. If the panel is removed, you can see what I'm up against here. So on the back here, I've got a flanged area that I need to set the quarter panel up against. I'm going to be grinding all of this. I've got this window frame, which is sandwiched, and it's going to have to be cut, but just this layer. Now, I don't want to go too far through this. I don't know if I can show with the camera, but I've got 2 layers, and I have to just cut the first layer right here, but not the second layer. So this has to be cut about here, but just the first layer. And then besides all of the metal work I'm gonna have to do down here, this has to be cut as well. So I've got this kidney piece coming in right now from Restoration Design. I'm going to have to clean all this stuff up, and then I'm going to be making patch panels to connect this stuff together. But for now, I want to get the outer skin of this off in the right spot. But just the outer skin, which is really the case for all of this, is I just need to get the outer skin of these off. And I don't exactly know how I'm going to do that yet, but we're going to figure it out as we go. You can sort of see here where the other quarter panel has been cut away. I need to do basically the same thing. So I need to get this off and then trim here. Then of course grind all this down. Grind all that down so it's nice and clean and ready to weld with some weld through primer. So with the fender taken off, you can see that this thing was actually the part that was going to intimidate me the most, to be honest. But I think it's actually going to be the easiest of all the stuff I'm going to do today. I just need to trim this off, buff this, and then come in from the underside and scribe a line. And then I can have a pretty accurate cut for the quarter. What I don't know how I'm going to do yet is get into this little gap inside here. Giggity, giggity. And trim this off. But we're going to solve that sooner than later. All right, let's get into it. is tracking pretty well so far. I'm not showing every little thing I'm doing. This is just a ton of grinding and fitting and grinding and fitting and grinding and fitting. I'm at the point now where I'm starting to check the door gaps, and this one looks really good, and it will probably be perfect as soon as I get this rocker area to sit down a few millimeters. So that's the next thing I'm going to work on, and then I'm going to work on cutting this spot, and then the rear latch panel should look great, hopefully. So I'm going to work on this rocker now. I'm going to kind of scribe it out and slowly keep trimming. One thing I will say is I think the way the factory did it is you've got the square jack point. I think the quarter panel actually mounts dead in the center of that jack point. And then there's the rocker that goes in front of it. And then they used lead filler in between to fill that gap, which I think is like probably 3 or 4 millimeters. I'm gonna keep trimming on this side of the rocker and keep trimming it until the quarter panel just sits down nicely. Check the door gap again, and if it looks good, I'm gonna call that a day and throw a screw in there. Realistically, I'm probably 3-ish hours into this so far today. So much for trying to get both quarters done and weld through primer. I really only have one section left, which I was the most worried about, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it's going to be the easiest of all of them, and that is to scribe this line here. All I really have to do is get under the car, scribe the line on the inside, and then account for the flange, which is about 1/2 inch on this side. So I'll do the scribe, I'll add 1/2 inch to the line, and then I'll just cut it off cleanly. And in theory, I'll have a perfect line, which will be a lap weld to do the entire quarter on. And then hopefully and magically, I hope that the quarter will settle into the rear latch panel. So let's give this thing a go. Let's get inside, scribe the line, and see where it sits once it's cut. cleanliness. Remember, I was trying to scribe a line on the inside of this, but vertically, I couldn't get my tool to go 90 degrees, so I just made this nail, and I rode the nail up against the edge to scribe the inside of this quarter panel, and then this is the line that it forms. So I'll kind of double down on that line, and then remember that I have to cut this about a 1/2 inch further this way. I need to give myself lip. We're at a little more than, I think, 1/2 inch there. I'm going to take the biggest one, which is here, and I'll scribe that and leave that much of a line, and then I'll just trim. Okay, we are very, very close here. If I lift this hood, I've got a really great gap, about 4 millimeters all the way up, totally even. This is totally flush here. Hard to tell, but you can see it. This piece is almost perfectly aligned here. It's a little proud here, but to get this thing to align correctly, I need to give this thing a little bit of love. So I'm gonna have to put a little bit of weld in here just to get it to be perfect, but not too shabby. This thing settles in great in this little hole. Again, a couple body hammers, and that'll settle in really well. And then this as well, this gap is fine. I'll give this thing a little bit of tap to round this out and blend it in. And then gap wise for the door, it's almost perfect. I think it's really good sort of below here. And then as you go up, it gets a little bit, let's see, as you go up, it gets a little bit bigger. But I think from what I understood, you get on the inside of this fender and tap it with some wood, and it can fix that gap. But overall, I think it's really good. Well, that was a big day of grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding and measuring and fitting and grinding. I probably had that quarter panel on and off 30 times. So not gonna get to the other one today. Obviously, it's basically the same exact procedure as you just saw. What I may do off camera right now is just grind the body a bit. If I can get the metal totally clean, I'll throw some weld through primer on there and just get it ready for actual welding. But couldn't be more pleased. I think we're within a couple of millimeters of greatness. So now I just got to duplicate the thing on the other side and, you know, weld the thing up, and we'll have a rear end. Giggity. Guys, if you're new to this, please hit subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'm going to be cranking out these videos, especially during the COVID quarantine. I hope you and your family are staying safe. And until next time, I'll see you later.